The beginning of Shane Wright's career was never supposed to go this way. The star prospect was on the radar of scouts before the Seattle Kraken were even an NHL franchise. Throughout almost all of his junior career, Wright maintained the top spot in the 2022 class, before sliding in the rankings in the last few months. Since the draft, Wright has been all over the place, playing for 4 different teams in 4 different leagues with varying results across all 4. Today, let's look at the short career thus far of Shane Wright, a player who has gotten undeserved disrespect from fans, rival organizations, and even the Seattle Kraken themselves. Shane Wright entered the OHL in 2019-20 as a 15-year-old. He was the 6th ever player to be granted exceptional status and didn't disappoint in his first season with Kingston. Playing on one of the league's worst teams, Wright was immediately the team's top scorer at 15, and the clear-cut top prospect of the 2022 class, still years out from the draft. It's easy to overlook the importance of Wright's next season because it didn't happen. Due to the shutdown, he didn't play a single OHL game. Those seasons as 16, 17, and 18 years old are cited as the most important for a prospect's development, and Wright was robbed of one of those years. While many other top prospects were also sidelined, some European talents got an opportunity to jump ahead a bit. Eventual top picks Juraj Slafkovsky and Nemec, for example, got an extra bit of pre-draft year experience that Wright was unlucky enough to be deprived of. Going into their final pre-draft year though, Wright was still the clear-cut number 1 projected pick. For a player often described as a two-way forward coming out of a year without any OHL games, Wright's production in his draft year was pretty solid. The Kingston squad that had been so weak in prior seasons managed to crack the playoffs, where Wright scored 14 points in 11 games. To many, Wright's overall production in this season was considered unimpressive, especially when the likes of Slafkovsky were tearing it up on the world's biggest international stage. Going into the 2022 draft, Wright was the consensus number 1 pick, but was by no means a lock anymore, as many names were thrown out as possible first overall choices. Montreal confirmed their rumored decision to go elsewhere, taking Juraj Slafkovsky with the first overall selection. New Jersey was up next, and having no need to draft another center, selected Nemec. Arizona had long been rumored to want Logan Cooley, which was proven true at number 3. And then finally, Wright got his turn to walk up to the podium and to show what he thought about the draft order. After the draft, there were questions about where Wright would play out the 2022-23 season. Apparently, Seattle didn't know either, because Wright bounced all over the place throughout the year. He started in the NHL, but was never given a true opportunity to succeed there. Wright consistently got less than 9 minutes of ice time per game, and only participated in 7 of Seattle's first 18 games before he was reassigned. In a short AHL stint, Wright was pretty impressive for Coachella Valley, and scored his first professional goal. The spell there didn't last long though, because Wright was soon after loaned away to play for Team Canada at the World Juniors. Shane Wright was by no means the most exciting name on that Canadian roster, and wasn't the best player there either. He was clearly the most trusted, in every sense of the word. Wright played in every situation: the power play, penalty kill, 5-on-5, and overtime. He was designated as the team captain and was the first to lift the tournament's trophy when Canada took home the gold medal. Wright proved himself to be the type of player that can lead a championship team, a trait that could be very valuable to a Seattle team that's been surprisingly competitive in their first years. Returning from the World Juniors, Shane Wright played in his 4th separate league of the season. He was assigned back to the OHL, only it would be an entirely new challenge in that league also. The Windsor Spitfires acquired Shane's rights for a massive haul of assets, and he stepped in and was immediately a high-volume scorer for the club. The 44-win team went into the OHL playoffs as a top contender, but shockingly fell to the Kitchener Rangers in 4 games. Wright was held to only 3 points in the series. At the early conclusion of his OHL season, Wright had the opportunity to play more playoff hockey. Coachella Valley was gearing up for a playoff run of their own, and so Wright got his first taste of pro postseason hockey. The Firebirds managed to make it all the way to Game 7 of Calder Cup Final Overtime, the furthest possible stage without winning the trophy. The Hershey Bears captured the Calder Cup, and with that, Shane Wright's season was finally over. By the end of the season, Wright had experienced 2 levels of professional hockey and spent significant time with both levels of the Seattle organization. He'd captained a team to a world championship and played with some incredible talents that will soon take the NHL by storm. He'd been traded for a massive haul of assets and had major expectations placed on him, and then bowed out early in the OHL playoffs. Wright experienced incredible highs and lows, and in the end got valuable experience in many different roles. Shane Wright is a player who's had a troubled few seasons considering his beginnings. A once exceptional status junior player and projected first overall talent, Wright bounced all over the place in his debut professional year and never stuck around in one place long enough to cement himself. One of the most important things in Wright's development into an NHL player and future star is that missing year. When comparing it to the rest of the 2022 class, it doesn't mean all that much, as no player got to play out their season as they normally would have. Looking at things in terms of just general development though, it could be expected that this draft class is likely to have a lot more players getting off to slower starts or peaking later in their careers as late bloomers. As we've seen, Wright's numbers and performance at all levels outside of the NHL have been impressive for his age group. 1 year later, it's not unreasonable to have Wright as the number 1 overall selection in a redraft. As a result of Seattle's mismanagement of him and his being overshadowed by other incredible talents, Shane Wright has been one of the most underappreciated and disrespected prospects in the NHL, even despite achieving great things in many different places at only 19 years old. With such clear high-end talent, there's no doubt that he could break out into a star as soon as next season.